Butch is nuanced. Butch is more than I think we've been talking about.
I'm creating this, like this is a conscious decision. If I get up and I get dressed like this doesn't happen by accident, right? I have a certain masculinity about myself. To me, it all flows.
I think fashion and clothes also deepened my capacity for self-possession. I think I just got to know myself a lot.
For as long as I can remember, I wore oversized clothing.
From a young age, it took me a while to figure out that I enjoyed dressing that way because it felt comfortable and felt good for my body.
I think trans visibility has given me more words and ways to describe myself.
Hi, my name is Carly, and I am so excited to be bringing you this video today. I wasn't sure, or I didn't think that I'd ever be able to talk about this in this way, this publicly and this comfortably. So I don't know, this is like something that I feel like I've been holding on to for a long time and not quite understanding. Today I'm going to be talking about my identity as a masc, butch lesbian. I don't know, kind of how I got to where I am now, in a place where I feel like I am pretty comfortably dressing like myself. I realized I was lesbian when I was a sophomore in high school. And it was like at a school event. And I just remember feeling so isolated in that moment that I realized I didn't relate to my peers in the way that everybody else liked men. Like literally everybody else. Some of them turned out gay, but that wasn't until long after I came out. All throughout childhood, whenever I would listen to music about women or when I would dress a little more boyish, there was something that felt so affirming about it to me. It felt so right that it really did scare me. I just ran from that as much as I could. It wasn't even really consciously. I just was like, I can't do this anymore. So yeah, I grew up in a culture of a very straight binaristic idea of gender expression. Everybody either dressed in Lululemon leggings or Nike shorts and a basketball jersey. It felt like there was only really one other option, and that was so I'm not a man, so that means I have to dress like a girl, ? I always just hated wearing that kind of stuff. I didn't like to show myself off particularly. And I was super insecure, of course, like every teen girl is. But there was just something about it that felt so different. Even at my senior prom, I wore a corset dress. And I you're supposed to feel so beautiful at your prom, and I just did not at all. There was just some part of me that didn't connect with that performative femininity. Everyone talked about how clothing is self-expression, and I just didn't understand what that meant. I never felt like myself. I just felt like there was always this part of myself that I just couldn't access. Being queer also was not a thing, really. If you were different, you're different, and everyone's gonna point it out, and everyone is going to acknowledge it. So I just tried to fit in as much as possible through my grade school years. Something felt so wrong, and I still don't really have words for it. It's just this, somebody said it in the film Dykes Camera Action, that there is kind of an innate power lying somewhere in between the masculine and the feminine. And there was something that was so magnetic to me about being a butch woman. I was just very attracted to the idea of boyishness in myself. It was so exhilarating to me to think about queerness and whatever pseudo way that I did, because I mean, I don't really particularly feel like I wasn't like, ooh, I love girls so much when I was in school. I just wasn't this like cookie cutter thing that everyone else was, and it's like, not to sound corny or cliche, but it's just like true. And it took me until about high school to start accepting this more masculine part of myself and start exploring it a little bit. I kind of just started to experiment with my clothing. And first I cut my hair super short. So once I started embracing it a little, I feel like I leaned a little too hard in the other direction. And I ended up like embracing this very patriarchal ideal of masculinity. I felt like I needed to have certain interests. I needed to have done certain things. My body needed to look a certain way, and if I didn't, like, I just could not be a masculine person. I love to lift things. I love to get my hands dirty. I love to build something. I love to keep watch over my friends. I love to be the go-to girl to help you open a jar. But also at the same time, I love baby animals, and I love pretty colors, and I love flowers and babies. Yeah, I don't know. It just didn't feel like I was allowed to like all of those things at once. So when I started wearing masculine clothing, it didn't really feel like I could be myself. I felt like I had to like take on this nonchalant, like chill, like F-boy persona, which was like, that was never really my vibe. It wasn't sticking, and I was like, okay, so what am I? Like, what am I? I just, like, none of it felt right to me. Also, like, went through a brief stint of, like, am I non-binary? Am I trans? Because nobody else who's, like, a girl around me really seems to be feeling like this about their gender expression. This semester, I wrote a critical analysis of the film Bound, if anyone is familiar. And I wrote this, and I feel like it kind of reflects my relationship with masculinity and femininity quite well. Bound is a subtle upheaval of what it means to be masculine and feminine within a relationship. That masculinity is not indicative of emotional distance or capability, and femininity does not equate subservience. Identifying with queerness and masculinity is simply a fact of presentation for Corky. I feel like what I've realized is just that there's such a balance of softness and hardness and masculinity and femininity that queer people can exhibit that people just don't really understand. I don't know, I just for a long time have felt so intertwined with womanhood, while simultaneously feeling disconnected from classical like femininity. But I still feel like softer, more tender. Yeah, and I feel like a question that's kind of been arising for me recently is I love to identify as a butch lesbian. That feels very right to me. But sometimes I don't dress exactly like a butch lesbian. Like, I'm wearing a purple tank top right now. Like, it doesn't make me any less who I am. Something that I've just been working towards in the past few years is kind of finding the correct balance for me between masculinity and femininity, like presentation wise, but all the while I'm just trying to suit everything like to what I am inside. I feel like I've just had a really hard time grappling with the idea of like labels in lesbianism. It's been a long journey for me, and figuring out how I like to express myself. But I'm so grateful for every moment, and yeah.